Scholarship for Athletes is happy today to have Arizona State University men's golf coach Tim Mickelson with us for an interview to discuss college golf recruiting, the process, and the best ways for parents and junior golfers to navigate this process. Thanks so much, Tim.
Yeah, no problem, Josh. Happy to be chatting with you.
Excellent. All right, at Scholarship for Athletes, we try to explain to our clients that the recruiting process is like being on a 3-year job interview. Is that how you view the recruiting process?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily limited to 3 years. It may be a 2-year process. It may be even 4 or anywhere in between. But it's certainly a long-term process in which the coach learns, obviously, more about the player as well as the player's background and his family. And it's a time for the recruit or the player to gather a lot of information about the schools that they're looking into, the coaching staff that's at those schools, the academics, the size of the school, the weather, the practice facilities, the whole gamut. And you can't learn that overnight. And so it takes time, and you have to build a relationship with the coach, and the coach has to build a relationship with the player so you know what you're getting into.
Sure. No, that's great. What advice would you have for the parents of high school student athletes about this process?
I would say that, it's never too early to start. And all I mean by that is if a family's driving through, let's say Austin, if they're driving through the city of Austin, Texas, they don't necessarily have to call the golf coach and ask to go visit, but they can drive by the campus and walk through campus and get a feel of the campus. Or if they're going through Dallas, they've got multiple schools they can go to. They can go to TCU and SMU and whatever else I'm forgetting. But take a look at campuses when you're near them. It's the easiest way to get the feel for a university. And it can start, you don't want to do it when they're in third grade, obviously, but if they've started high school, I think it's certainly warranted to visit campuses when you've got 30, 45 minutes. If you like it the first time, then you can go back and call the coach and say, look, I visited campus. I'd love to come back out and talk to you and learn more about the actual golf program itself.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. When we work with players and you talk to the families, they'll mention, I'm going to be in such and such city. I want to meet with the coach, and I think that you just hit the nail on the head. They don't always have to meet with the coach the first time, especially when they're early in the process. They can go by, take a look themselves, see if they like it, and then next time, and if they get a real good feel, that can be kind of like step 2. I think that's great advice. Yeah, and then
obviously our time is limited as coaches as well, and we may be on the road with our team. The other tough part is, if they start early in the process, the communication is very limited from what we can do, obviously. And so it happens all the time where, kid comes to town and wants to take a look at, campus, and you're trying to get in touch with the coach, but, you keep missing them, and so you don't know when he may or may not be available. So that shouldn't be the priority, in my opinion, the first time. Just go take a look and get a feel. If you like the campus, then set up something else later down the road with the coach.
Great. How important do you feel it is for potential recruits to build a strong relationship with you first and also players on your team?
Well, I think it's critical. I tell pretty much, anytime I do a talk with juniors, I basically say that no matter how good you are, there's 3 things that you need to factor into your decision, and 2 of them are what you just said. Number 1 is basically a coach that you feel you can respect, listen to, and learn from. Number 2 is basically the players on the team, and that's basically your family for 4 years. That's your brothers. That's your sisters if you're a female player. You're going to spend 40, 50 hours a week with them. So you need to get to know them, and you need to obviously feel like you can build a rapport and build friendships and relationships. And then my third one is always, going to a school that you can basically play for. You can only get so good by practicing on a daily basis. You need to go out and compete. And so you need to try to find a school where you can get in that starting lineup right away, in my opinion.
Okay. What are your coaching philosophies as a golf coach and as just a coach in general?
Well, I mean, the point is to get the ball in the hole in the least amount of shots, right? So that's my philosophy.
I see.
But as an actual coach, there's all different coaches out there. There's some that love to be swing instructors. There's some that don't. There's some that don't really know much about golf, but they're a good manager or recruiter or whatever. My philosophy has always been this. There's no substitute to hard work. If somebody's willing to put in the work to get better, nothing's going to stop them. They're going to get better. So as their coach, my job is making sure that they're putting in the correct work. So are they putting in enough time with their short game? If they're a poor wedge player, are they practicing the right things to become a better wedge player? If they're struggling with driving, are they doing what's necessary to become a better driver of the ball? Are there certain resources that they need to get better that we don't have? And if we don't have it, why don't we have it? And if it's within NCAA rules, I'll go out and get that resource. So I look at coaching as more than just a swing instructor. I look at it more as basically a supervisory role for the player to make sure they're doing the things that professionals do on a daily basis. And when it comes to work ethics don't change overnight. So if we can slowly mold their work ethic as they become a college athlete, then by the time they become a professional, that work ethic is now ingrained in them, and they're better prepared for professional golf than they may have been.
Good. And then what advice would you give for athletes when they take an unofficial and official visit? So, what should they do and not do in those visits?
Well, when it comes to unofficial visits, I think that would depend on how late it is in the process. If it's a freshman or sophomore, then that will vary as to what somebody who maybe is a senior should be asking or doing on his visits. But certainly come prepared. I fully expect kids on visits, both official and unofficial, to have a list of questions that they're going to ask so that they better know my school and what we're all about. But very few kids actually do that. Very few kids come prepared with questions, and quite often, lots of times, we're in the room and I'll talk for 10, 15, 20 minutes about what we have and what we're trying to do, and I'll ask, do you have any questions? And they just sort of look there and be like, no. So I think they should have a list of 10 to 12 questions that they should have, and they should ask every coach when they go visit. And the answers to those 10 or 12 questions may be the difference maker if somebody's stuck between two universities when it comes down to the final decision.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's one thing that we talk a lot about with our student athletes is we want them having questions that they want to know the answer to, them to be the one asking it, them to be the one taking control of the meeting as much as possible. Obviously, the parents there to help, and if they forget something. How do you view that in those meetings? When you leave a meeting, I mean, what role do you see the parents playing in that you feel is going to be for them to help the kids and to give you a good feel for the student athlete?
Yeah, well, I'll say I've never left a meeting thinking, wow, I was really impressed with that parent. Like, I have left a meeting going, I was really impressed with that kid. He knew his stuff. He came prepared. He provided me with his resume, golf resume, his transcript, and it was him. It wasn't dad or mom carrying the forms in. It was the kid asking the questions. That's what I like to see. I like to see the kids take the initiative in the process, and I like it for two reasons. Actually, probably three. Number one, it shows maturity. Number two, it shows sincerity in the program. But number three, I think a lot of things that we're not considering is, these kids are coming up in a different generation than we did, and communication is so fast and easy that communication skills, verbal communication skills, is sort of getting lost in translation. And so I feel like it's part of our duty to give them those opportunities that might not be easy for them. So take them out of their comfort zone a little bit, because certainly coaches can be intimidating at times. So take them out of their comfort zone and have them be able to communicate with coaches, because it might not be all that important for them right now when they're in high school and stuff, but if golf doesn't work out and they're in the business world, if you have a CEO that can't communicate, it's going to be tough to be able to move up the ladder And so I feel it's a great opportunity for them to just, grow a little bit as a person.
Excellent. That was perfect, Tim. I agree wholeheartedly with that last part. And a lot of your answers were great to hear. It's stuff that we try to help guide the families along with and help the student athlete. I think the biggest thing is this student athlete, what an opportunity they have. I mean, I heard you say that, I loved it, because they've got this opportunity in this process to learn a skill for the rest of their life that can help them beyond golf in the workforce. And you're right, with technology today, and because of everything, communication skills are not there like they maybe used to be. So take this opportunity to really work on that and be able to ask questions and be out of your comfort zone. Yeah, that was awesome.
Sure. Cool.
So I really appreciate your time today, Tim, and we wish your team the best this spring, and hope to talk to you soon and see you on the trail, my man. Really appreciated it.
You got it, Josh. I mean, it's my pleasure to help you out a little bit, and I'll see you somewhere this summer.
All right, perfect.